Hey everyone, Thyworm here with another SSF strategy. This time Merc and Go, or as I have come to also coin it, Merc and Die. This strategy is not for the faint of heart and I felt a little faint, so I changed the strategy halfway through the test, which is terrible for results, and now I am out of scarabs, so it's a complete mess basically. But I felt it is a complete mess that still deserves showing, and I feel you will be able to learn a thing or two, so I decided to post this anyway. Let's dive in. As you all know, Mercenaries have returned to the game, and when I saw the scarab that decked out mercs with full unique gear, I got very excited. This was the main driver for trying this out, plus I have a very tanky character, over 300,000 effective hit pool with flasks up, even more with molten shell up and 12 million DPS. I thought it was fine. This section is mostly about mercenaries though, and there's not that much to say. I feel you can spawn them in pretty much every map using a scarab or atlas nodes and then fight them for the loot. They carry decent loot in general without any strategy in SSF, currency, some gems, some pretty rare scarabs, the occasional unique. And if you do use scarabs, they carry much more. Then, why this strategy? The main reason is that in solo self-found it is always good to have a somewhat reliable unique farming strategy in case your build needs uniques. Previously, we had rogue exiles in ritual which rained down uniques. We've had others before that, but lately it wasn't so easy. This strategy, on paper at least, should provide you with a bunch of uniques, and you even get to pick the ones that you like from the mercenary. That makes the reason for running this strategy rather simple. It is straightforward, I like it, and after running it, I do feel it is probably the most reliant way that I've seen at least so far to farm uniques in SSF, with the caveat that scarabs are not super common to actually deck them out in full unique gear, and neither are high tier uniques. But you know, if you're looking for a rim sorrow for your Baby Cold build or something, you should be able to get those very reliably. In this section I will have to provide some extra context before I show the atlas. I started with a generic tree with player buffs meaning Shrines, Nico and Huck, and then I picked all of the merc nodes and I had a lot of atlas passive points left. I thought it was a good idea to just juice the maps, add some rogues, Searing Exarch, map modifier effect, simply generic valuable stuff. The issue is, these mercs become complete raid bosses and literally half of the time one-shot me. And once I die, they're gone, and so is my self-esteem. I did do this for around 15 or so maps, but got killed so often on a solid character that I realized this is simply a bad idea. I then made a second atlas, removing most of the juice, extra map modifier effect, etc., but still was killed quite often, more than I thought was sensible. After 20 maps in total out of the 50, so with around 30 maps left, I slept on it and realized I should just run these maps white. Keep it tier 16 maps because I feel the mercs aren't impacted by quantity or rarity, but are impacted, it seems, by stuff like gain physical damage as, which is a map modifier and it completely turns these guys into like one-shot tanks. I watched the PoE report podcast yesterday and Ventrua also said the same thing, that you should just run these maps white, so I'm glad that I figured that out on my own as well. If you don't, you will run into stuff that just completely demolishes your ego. So I decided to run tier 16 maps without any modifiers and then thought about what would synergize with that. Mechanics that don't require map modifiers either, or at least not so much. I ended on Essence, which just spawns and doesn't care about map mods, and also Maven witnessed bosses, which would still net me some boss loot even without rarity on the maps. And this turned out to work quite well, in fact, with me barely dying to mercenaries anymore, still getting tons of uniques and even some of the more rare uniques. So with that context set, let's look at the atlas, and I think you will get most of this, but let me highlight a few things. I am taking several player buffs because you need to be as strong as possible to fight these mercs, even in white maps. Then I only take a few mercenary nodes because I am forcing them to spawn and to be infamous with scarabs. Loot and pillage and the nodes leading up to that gives them a chance to drop their entire inventory or a few pieces at least. Often I get 2 to 3 uniques per Merc and sometimes their entire loadout. I took several Maven boss rushing nodes, the Scrying cluster, which I think matches nicely with Maven, and then a bunch of Essence nodes. I would advise against taking Crystal Resonance unless you want to spend 3 minutes killing a map boss. All of the other nodes are great, and then a bit of map sustain and you're good to go. For scarabs, the regular Thartan scarab puts mercs in the map. The Thartan scarab of infamy makes that merc infamous and adds 2 more random mercenaries, which I will get into. And the Thartan scarab of renown makes the entire loadout of the merc unique. That's everything you need, plus a strong build. I had 2 scarab slots left and decided to use 2 regular essence scarabs, as that synergizes well with the tree. For preparation, I told you already how I ended up ultimately at the current strategy. It took a bit of experimenting, but if you go directly with my strategy, there's not much preparation required. A bunch of normal tier 16 maps, you should have those, and the scarabs. I will say the infamy scarab is quite rare. I only found 44 so far playing the character and wasted a few of those on mercenaries that one-shot me. So I wouldn't call this a super reliable unique farm or anything because you're hampered by this scarab. But once you gathered a few and you follow this strategy with a strong build, you should be getting a good number of uniques and very reliably so. It all depends how many scarabs you are able to farm. Let's talk execution. So, due to the Scarab of Infamy, not only are mercenaries infamous, you also added 2 more of them, and all 3 in total carry a full unique loadout. Obviously, this is pretty dangerous, so enable the fight and run, I would say. Not only that, there is something else I noticed, and that is when you kill the main mercenary, the one that you talk to, the other 2 mercenaries stop fighting. They surrender, it seems, which makes sense perhaps, but also prevents them from dropping their gear. Now, this is maybe bugs or intentional, I am not sure, but to make them drop their loot, you have to lure them away from the main merc and kill them before you kill the main merc. This also makes the fight easier as an added bonus. So, in a map, you will be playing a minigame, as it were, to kill the mercs in order, which will be easier or harder depending on the type of merc that you're fighting and on your build, I suppose. I used the overlay map to track the main merc and tried to avoid him or her, while killing the other 2 mercs first. This is manageable most of the time, and I think it is pretty fun too actually, and adds a layer of complexity to the strategy. Let's talk loot, but before we talk about that, you should know that I am on a rather strict loot filter with most uniques hidden. Also, this loot is messed up as I was cycling through strategies, so take it with a little grain of salt. Starting with the notable tab, and please note, this is only a small fraction of the uniques that I found. I sorted it by type. Hopefully you are experienced enough to see which ones are which, without me hovering over each single item. In the bottom left, I did make a small section with notable uniques, ones that you don't see every day, so the more rare ones. The Gull, the Scourge Claw, a Windscreen Boots, Vixen's Entrapment, very common for mercs actually, this one, a Lion Eyes Glare Bow, a Soul Tether, a Biscos, a March of the Legion, which also popped up multiple times from mercs, and an Astral Projector. All other uniques I feel are quite common and serve more as a bit of inspiration as to what types of uniques you should be expecting to find. I also found 2 Scrying Orbs, which is exactly the average for 50 maps. The currency tab with nothing really of note. You can't expect much currency when running normal tier 16 maps. The Atlas tab is more interesting with 7 astrolabes. Could be lucky, but that is way more than I was expecting with white maps. Fragments, very few scarabs at the end of the day, which makes sense. There is no investment in scarabs. Maps, also nothing special, but as you are Maven boss rushing, even in normal maps, you will get quite a good number of Guardian and Elder maps, plus 4 Nightmare maps. That's not bad either. Essence, a very good number of them, and with the all flame crafting you can just throw essences at decent bases and craft some pretty sick gear in SSF. So this is definitely worth running, even as a sort of afterthought like in my case. A good yield for basically only 30-ish maps. I didn't corrupt the essences by the way, which is why you don't see the special ones. You get basically no div cards as you can see, which makes sense because you're not specializing in that. And that's it for the loot and for the video guys. I'll merge the tabs and I'll be off to do more testing. I have in fact already recorded all of the footage for the next one. If you have any suggestions or questions, please let me know. Thanks for watching and making it to the end. Love you all. See you soon. Bye bye.